Hello and welcome to Bargain Bin. It's a video game podcast where me, Jonny, and
Jamie
review video games under $15 each week. This week we did a game that was $15 under $15. It was actually $0. It was free, and the community is a-buzzing about it. It was called Clockwork Cleanup, and it was developed by David Stears. And essentially what it is it's an auto battler, kind of roguelike, you could say. And you place tiles and various shapes on a grid and try to connect them in different ways to defeat waves of enemies and ostensibly save the factory is the story. So the story is not really that much there. It's just you're a cute little robot guy.
named
Mac's factory. He seems to be like the janitor. That's why it's like Clockwork Cleanup, and his factory's under attack.
Well, there's like a broken pipe and all of this.
Oh, right.
The slime is leaking out. So all the slime, there's like a bunch of slime monsters.
Right. So all the slime monsters are trying to come in, and Mac is trying to repel them by connecting these pipes essentially on this grid that grows as the game goes. And you have 4 elements. You have earth, water, fire, and air. And you have these different shape pipe pieces and these spell tiles that kind of do different things when you connect them with the pipe pieces. And some interesting strategy comes into play because, of course, since the grid is a finite space, and you're connecting these tiles and trying to all fit it together, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. And if you sometimes you have too many tiles, then you have space for, and you got to make some tough decisions.
Yeah. And there's also, I guess we can like jump into the nitty gritty of it because, there's like, the actual spell tiles, but then there are like, you don't have unlimited access to connectors. They're like the simple ones, like straight connectors or some like elbow pipes, but you have like limited access to T-pipes or some of the other fancier ones where there's like some underground pipes or like plus pipes, and like those are the ones you really want to be able to enable your access. Otherwise you only have one outlet to one inlet. So there's kind of like a balancing act you have to play between the spell tiles you're getting, like the power you're getting, and like actually how you're able to put it on the board and connect it all together.
Yeah, and so it starts out small, where you maybe just have a few spell tiles, you're not really worried about space, and then after every battle, you get access to an upgrade in the form of a new, connecting pipe, like a special, like, 4-way pipe, like Jamie said, that's called the plus, because it's in a plus shape, or a T-pipe, or a new spell tile, and a lot of the more powerful spell tiles take up a ton of space. So you have to kind of be managing your space pretty early on, kind of like the inventory in an old school Resident Evil game, or the inventory in a newer game like Dredge, is kind of what it reminded me of. And the only other, so there's the spell tiles, there's the connecting pipes that you get access to. The other 2 types of rewards you can get are pass-throughs, which are pipes that like have a special ability on them. So they'll be just in the shape of like a straight pipe like normal, but if you use them, they'll do a little thing. So they'll like add a little bit of shield or do a little bit of damage.
Yeah, because normally like just the pipes to connect things don't do anything except connect and take up space. Right.
And then the other type of reward you can get to build your strategy around are mods. So like mod tiles that you can attach to a spell tile that will like make it refresh faster or make it do a little more damage or add a certain debuff to enemies when it hits.
Yeah. And to paint the picture a little bit more, it's like you start with a 5x5 grid, I believe, but it can expand up to maybe like a 9x9. Like as you progress, you can like make your grid bigger, and in the middle of each side of the grid is a pipe connection, and they're kind of like they represent like 4 elements. Like I believe it is in the game supposed to be labeled as like fire, water, wind or air, and earth. And so the spell tiles you get that are meant to connect to each of the individual elements tend to have a certain type of buff or debuff or style to them. And then some of the spell tiles can connect to 2 elements. Some of them are just for 1 element. You'll get spell tiles that have like 2 inlets. You'll get some that just have 1. Yeah, and then the pass-throughs are just like the pipes where the liquid water, elemental sludge can just pass through them. Yeah.
There's also underground pipes and pipes that like jump over one another, which are interesting when your board starts to get pretty chaotic and you're like trying to connect these points, because each spell tile can only be connected in like one place, and sometimes the shape doesn't fit perfectly, like a corner piece, so you kind of have to like put it in the middle and then like wrap some pipes around each other or go underneath the board or cross elements over. So it can get pretty hectic pretty quickly. And while there are like a lot of different strategies that are interesting, like, you know, fire is kind of more damage based, and then earth is more defense based, and water is kind of like neutral. The earth strategy of like building up a ton of block apparently is the one that's OP right now. So in the dev notes, the developer has talked about like nerfing that strategy, which is interesting.
Which we might have to play it after that has gotten nerfed. But yeah, I mean, the layer of how the pieces connect together does add, I think it is what makes it like a really good game, like over just like a good game, because you're not just picking like the power-ups you want and like building up your build. Like you have to also be intentional about how much space is being taken up, and also what the inputs look like and what elements it's using. Like if you're like the water and wind are across from each other and fire and earth are across from each other. So like if you already have a fire earth connection, which I think the cross element connections are maybe a little less common, that's going to make it really hard to have a water wind connection unless you have one of like an underground pipe or one of the other special pipes. So you got to keep a lot in your brain in terms of like the build you're going for and also what you can actually place on your board in that time.
Yeah, definitely. It's a super elegant way, in my opinion, to approach like an auto battler and kind of combine it with a different genre as far as like a puzzle game, or more of like kind of it's almost like tactical strategy, placing pieces on a board.
It's Tetris-y. I definitely found like, you know, I get into that myself. If I'm packing a car, if I'm loading the dishwasher, you know, I'm putting everything in as efficiently and perfectly as possible. In this game, it's just like loading the dishwasher.
It really scratches that itch if you're someone who loves loading the dishwasher.
Oh, yeah.
Just to zoom out for a second and describe the other kind of main loop of the game is there are 5 waves of enemies, and at the end that get increasingly harder. As you kind of get better skills, the enemies get tougher. And at the end of each wave, there's like a boss battle, which is kind of like a difficulty spike to make sure that you are progressing. And then in between each wave, it's kind of a cute story beat is you have to take like a union mandated break time. And that's a time where you can take one of 6 actions. I have them here in front of me: transmute, cut, customize, install, repair, and scavenge. Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. Transmute is you can take 2 spell tiles, put them together, and it spits out like a big one. So for instance, if you had like a 1 tile water and a 1 tile fire spell tile, you could put them together and it would make like a water fire with a different ability. So that's kind of like, it's interesting because you have to kind of know what you're going for there.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any way to know what you'll get unless you just have the combo memorized, and even then...
No, it shows you, I think.
Oh, it does?
You can click to see, but yeah, it's not readily apparent.
Those are some of the aspects. There was a lot I was discovering later on as I was playing this game that I could have looked for a little bit more. And then I think the only other aspect to that is it has to be a single input tile, which tend to be just 1 tile thing. So you can't be merging together 2 two bad boys
Two big
to
ones.
get a bad boy.
The cut action is when you take a existing bad boy, as Jamie said, like a multi-tile spell tile, and then cut it in two. So depending on where you cut it and how big it is, you'll get, two smaller tiles for your board. But again, not two smaller versions of the big one, two smaller ones that do something different. So you kind of have to be, you have to know what's going on with that. Customize is interesting. You can change where the input goes on a certain spell tile. So it's like if you can only imagine an L shape, say you can only input at the two like bottom parts of the L, you can put like one input on the top of the L and one input all the way on the end of the L, and that might, fit in the bottom left corner better, for instance.
Yeah, and I did find that useful a couple of times because especially the multi-element tiles, you can tell pretty intentionally have the inputs in less ideal places. You'll kind of get one of them and you'll be putting it on the board, and like any way you rotate the tile, you're like, it's not meant to line up easily. So I think that is, it was all intentional decisions by the developer.
Yeah. And then install. That's an interesting one. Did you ever do install? I don't really remember what it was.
I thought about it once.
What is it?
You can only have 2 mods on a spell tile, and the install lets you put in a battery, which takes up space on the board. Like you put it in one of the corners of your board, and it will take up like some of the available squares you have on the grid, but then it lets you add an extra mod to some of your spell tiles. So like I only considered it when I had my kudzu build where I was like really leaning heavy on 1 or 2 spell tiles, and I was thinking that it would be better to just lean into powering those up more. But when I was thinking about it, it like my grid was only at the size where it'll take up 1 square, and then I didn't realize later on I was like actually going to do it and realize that as your grid grows, the battery stays the same size and in the same place. So it's, instead of taking up that 1 square, it's taking up, like 4 or
interesting 9. Yeah, we'll get to your kudzu build and the winning build a little bit later. And then repair. What was repair? Do you remember?
You just get some heal back.
Okay, yeah. That it heals Mac. So Mac has 100 health.
I believe actually that's maybe a note that I think these break rooms happen mid-wave.
Yeah, they happen in the middle of the wave.
Yeah, I think after each wave you get all of your health back. But if you're like mid-wave and low on health, then you can heal up a little bit and try to make it if you're worried about making it all the way through.
Yep. And then scavenge is you get to choose a random spell tile mod or pipe, like specialty pipe. So like an underground or a T pipe or a plus. And yeah, that's kind of that's risk reward, because like sometimes you get a shitty one, but sometimes you get a really good one. I did that like once, and yeah, it was a fine one. So yeah. When you don't know what else to do, you can do that. Yeah,
it's definitely a good option if you don't know what else to do or just looking for some extra power or oomph on your board.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't seem optimal if you kind of have a vision, but if it's still somewhat, abstract, I think it's a good option.
Yeah, and I don't think we quite mentioned this, but I believe there are about like 6 fights per wave. I think you mentioned that there are 5 waves, and then there are about 6 fights per wave. Some of them just have 1 enemy that you're battling. Some of them have multiple enemies. Yeah,
you played this game a little bit more than me, I think. How long would you say like a typical run lasts if you're, not strategizing to the nth degree, but like, being careful with it? How long would you say like a typical run lasts, whether it's like you're making it kind of deep into the game or eventually winning? Is it like an hour?
Well, the only times that, or on all the runs that I did, I either only made it partway through wave 2 or I beat the whole thing. And my wave 2 runs, I think, were somewhere between 20 to 40 minutes. And then it felt like I guess the full run would be like double that plus a little bit more. Like I think it took closer to an hour, or like a little bit over an hour.
Yeah, I think,
and that's with like, I'm a big thinker, so I would sit there and stare at my computer for a while and try to think about what I wanted to pick. So I'm on the slower side.
Yeah, I was pretty loose with it, and I would say it's like 45 minutes to an hour if you're like going all the way through.
Yeah.
You can also change the speed of like the auto battle that's happening.
Oh yeah, I never did that.
Oh yeah, I sped it up a lot. So yeah, it can be flexible on timing, but like a run is it's a typical roguelike length, I would say, where it's like if you know what you're doing, you have a strategy, you can get through it in under an hour, the full game. But obviously, if you're thinking a lot about it, or if you're being super loose with it, it can be like super short because you can lose quickly, or super long because, yeah, you're redoing your strategy.
Yeah. And now maybe we can dive into some of what we thought of some of the aspects, or maybe some of the more nuanced mechanics. I know we mentioned I didn't realize that you could figure out what spell tiles you'd get when you're combining them together. There were a few moments of those where I felt so dumb of just not realizing there was a feature available. I didn't realize, well, after you lose, you can retry the battle you just did. But then I didn't realize, I think after any battle, you can retry the battle because there's a little button in the corner that's I could have done that better.
Yeah. Which is an interesting, it's not as punishing as a typical roguelike,
right?
Because it'll let you retry it. But it's interesting because it's also a lot more flexible than a typical roguelike, where you could kind of redo your entire strategy and it could, change the game, for lack of a better term. And that's actually what I did in my winning run. I lost to the boss a couple times actually, and redid my strategy each time, and eventually found one with the existing pieces that I had that worked, which I thought was I don't know, that was an interesting kind of lens into the developer's choice of I want to let my players kind of experiment here instead of, being a super punishing game, which I appreciated, especially in a free experience.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious about that, and this might just be from the run I did where I wasn't really going for a lot of spell tiles, but it kind of intrigues me that you felt like you were able to change your strategy. Was that just because you had so many tiles available that you were able to, were you not able to get all of them on the board and so you could pick and choose which ones you had, or was it about switching your mods around? How were you changing your strategy?
The run that I won with was based around a part or a spell tile called the cooling fan or something, where it was a big 4-tile straight line that kind of cut across the board because it was a water air. So water is on the top and air is on the bottom. And so this cooling fan cut through the middle, and then any spell tile that you had adjacent to it, the refresh rate would be cut by a significant degree, 3 seconds, 4 seconds.
That's because that's maybe something to highlight, is a lot of the charging rates on a lot of these tiles I feel are at least larger than 3 seconds. The small tiles are maybe around 3 or 4 seconds. The large, more powerful tiles are around 8 plus or 7 plus.
Yeah, and so I had a lot of really heavy hitting 9 refresh rate, hit a random enemy fire tiles, and so I was just trying to line as many of them up basically, and so it took rejiggering my board quite a lot to find the right combination.
So it wasn't as much about what tiles you were putting on your board. It was more about how you were puzzling out and orienting your board.
Yeah, for the most part. And it was also, I think, with another interesting thing just about seeing this from, a little bit more of looking behind at the code side. Some of the tiles that I had were hit a random enemy. And so I tried with a build once, my final build, didn't work. And then I just retried with the exact same build. And since it was hit a random enemy, it just must have hit the boss more, since it was they put a lot of minions in front of the boss. It must have just hit the boss more, and I won the second time with the exact same build. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I did. I also liked that feature of the game. I mean, yeah, for this being a free game, I mean, a lot of the reviews like were baffled that this was free
because it was so good. They were like, take my money.
Right. They wanted to like donate to this developer at least. But yeah, I mean, that's like another aspect is all the spell tiles have a nuance of either they hit the front enemy, which is the most common, I think, a random enemy, or the last enemy. Sometimes it's like the highest health enemy or the lowest health enemy. There are mods that can change that too. And like that strategy or those nuances do come into play because like you said, like sometimes the order of the enemies does matter. Like there's one fight where there's like a mage cat. It's all the little like slime critters. Some of them are just monsters, but some of them are kind of cute. There's like these little cute, like piddly widdly guys. They say they do like piddly attacks.
And I really like the art of the game because it's like Mac like hanging out with some of the slimes, which is cute.
Like they have like glasses on some of the run. Oh, the cover art, yeah. Yeah, but like one of the fights, there's like a mage cat at the very back who doesn't do any damage to you, but is like buffing all of the enemies in front of it. So, if you have only attacks that are going from the front, then it's going to be a lot harder to get through that because the mage cat is safe back there, just throwing in a bunch of buffs.
Yeah, and just as far as the other things you can do damage to all the places that Jamie said. You can give yourself block, which is like shield. You can inflict poison on enemies, which isn't a very supported mechanic, I don't think. And
it seems like it should be better because theoretically, like it does damage to the enemy like every second, but I think maybe just with how the timing works out, like that doesn't actually end up doing a lot in the long run.
Yeah, and then you can also inflict a number of debuffs on the enemies, like you can
there's like daze.
Yeah, daze them for
them.
a moment. Weaken. Kind of typical stuff you would see in like a card battler or auto battler type thing, and it's pretty basic. I mean, we've described all of the mechanics, and it makes for like a really tight, streamlined, and like fun experience in my opinion. What did you think of the art style?
I feel like I really liked the art while I was playing it. I mean, like after each fight you get to select between like 3 different new tiles to grab, and every time there was a new tile I got really excited, one to like figure out what it did, but also because they often just looked really cool, like especially the multi-elemental ones. I think there was just like a bit of hesitation in my voice because I was just thinking back to like when we were deciding what game to choose. I feel like it's so easy to like either get drawn in or drawn out by like a certain art style that like I tend to gravitate towards. And like I was kind of like skeptical of this game. I think both because of the art and like the auto battler aspect, and I just like wasn't sure what it was going to be like. But like while you're playing the game, like I feel like the art fits perfectly.
Yeah, I was going to say it like doesn't really display well. Like the screenshots honestly to me look kind of janky.
Yeah.
But like the way the game is animated, like each tile has its own unique animation, and it is pretty beautiful like when you're playing it, which is interesting because like the font is a little wonky on like the screenshots. Right. And like I don't know, it was definitely a don't judge a book by its cover moment because I thought the game was beautiful to play, but like on the Steam screenshots, I was like, what? Like,
yeah, it is so fascinating. I feel the exact same way. And I think maybe that part of that too is like, I think some of the best times to like take your screenshots, there's like a hide and show feature of like when you're choosing a tile or something. And it kind of like darkens the screen a little bit more, I guess, to indicate that you're not in your interactive mode yet. And I've seen a lot of screenshots from that screen or mode, and I think it looks a little worse. But even without that, yeah, I completely agree. It like don't judge a book by the cover fits this game pretty well.
Yeah, and what about the music? What did you think of that?
The music on the intro screen is iconic. I feel like maybe I just like heard it a lot because I had the screen up, but yeah, I thought the sound design was great. I feel like I never really got annoyed with the music. I feel like it fit really well. I think some of my favorite parts are on the boss battles. There's like this little like blackboard that drops down, and then it like displays the name of the boss, and then it like clatters to the ground, and like that sound effect is just so fun. It's just like a small detail. And then like for the break room, Like, I feel like you get kind of a little serotonin rush when you enter the break room because there's like this little whistle. Like, it sounds like a train whistle, like choo choo. And it's like, and then kind of like some gears running or something to intro you into the break room. And yeah, some of those pieces I thought were just like really kind of like, again, it's like you're so surprised the game is free because they put so much thought and intention into like details like that make the experience so much more enjoyable when it's all put together.
Yeah, super well done. I agree. It's one of those classic like roguelike, like it kind of reminded me of Balatro in that the song just like loops on itself, but it like kind of gets in your head and really fits the vibe. So I thought it was great. I didn't play it that much. I do wonder if it would get like, it's already stuck in my head, and I don't think I only played it for like 3.5 hours, maybe 3 hours. So like, I think I might get like a little driven wild by it after a while.
But like I think I only did 4 or 5 runs.
Yeah.
And if you were like grinding out this game, like really trying to like perfect it run after run, you might end up muting the background music.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it was designed to be played much longer than the time limits that we mentioned. So
right.
I know a lot of folks were asking for like paid DLC and like for the developer to expand it. So we'll definitely see. But like I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, moving on to endorsements, like I give it a full-throated endorsement. It's like maybe honestly one of, my favorite games that we've played on here. It was quite good. Just as far as like, I always appreciate like short games as an experience.
Right.
And like, I really don't know if you'll find a short game that's like that much better than this. That's like especially free. Like this is the top tier of a free game. There's no microtransactions. Like it's perfect. Just grab it on Steam, put it in your library. The only drawback for me was that you can't really play it on a handheld. You need like a mouse, which, is just one of those things where it's like a single developer, it's free. Like it's not going to be Steam Deck verified. That's totally fine.
Now, at what price point would you start to waver on your endorsement?
I mean, I loved the game, so it would have to be like really high, like over $20.
Okay.
I think like, as long as it was priced as like an indie game should be priced, I would endorse it.
Yeah. Or at least the like maybe 20 and over. You're like, maybe only get this game if you like auto battlers or roguelikes. But even maybe then like give it a try.
I just think like that would be ludicrous. Like, Silk Song, Spelunky, like so many just incredible, like super polished games are $20 and under. So that's fair.
I
can't imagine that the developer would price it that high, especially because like there's not that much to it as far as like mechanics at this point. If it was like a super mechanically rich game, I would say like, yeah, 20 would be fair. But right now I would say like I wouldn't be surprised if it were like $5-10.
Yeah. And that's like good to like pass the sniff test on, is that, even if it like, it's not just because it's free, which there have been some games on the pod where we've been like, yeah, like for this price point, like might as well try it. It's like worth that. But like, despite this game being free, like you would be endorsing it at, a price maybe that one might expect or could expect.
Yeah, definitely. So do you endorse it, Jen?
I do. Yeah. I again, like was very skeptical because I've never played an auto battler before, and they always come up in our search, and I'm always kind of like, maybe at some point we should try one of these. So I was nervous. I was like, we're finally doing it. And like you said, the screenshots don't look that great. So I was very skeptical, and it was quite fun. One of the things we haven't talked as much about is the OP block build, which is the one that I won with. And before that, I was struggle bussing hard. Like there are 5 waves, and I hadn't been able to get past the second wave. And then I won without having to redo any of the battles, or like even really being close to Mac losing all of his health, all of their health. So that is probably like something for us to talk about, because like I'm intrigued to try to play it more and see how far I can get with a different build, because there's a part of me that like wonders, yeah, just how much I would struggle to get a build that could go far that isn't the OP one. I would wonder how I would like feel about how some of the mechanics play out and pull together. But I think it's also a testament to how much I enjoy the game that I'm like thinking about that, and I'm curious about it, and I want to go back and play it and see like what other builds or runs I can pull together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is at a point where I do think in its current state, you could only get so much, strategy out of it. Like I said, like there's only so many combinations that could possibly work. But I think if more content were to be added or more work were to be put in, it could become the type of game, almost similar to a Slay the Spire if it had like an Ascension mode or an Endless mode where like players could play this forever, like as their only game, and love it. So I think it's an awesome achievement by the developer, and I hope he keeps going, because this was a great one.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the developer has another free game out. I can't remember when it was released, but
it was kind of weird because it was released like within a month of this one. So I don't know,
right.
Like, I don't know if it was like with collaborators or if they were just like making a lot of smaller games, but I don't know. This one seemed polished enough that it would have taken a long time. I'm not really sure how that goes, but yeah, it'd be interesting.
I would be curious, but I mean, that gave me the sense that maybe this developer just, enjoys releasing free games out of the kindness of their heart, or just like the joy of developing. So it might be someone to keep an eye on to see if they release something sometime in the future.
Yeah, we'll see. Moving on to Binnable Moments, Jam. You got anything for us this week?
Well, I said last week on the pod that I was maybe going to start trying to like stream or record some of the games we're playing, and I held true to my word. I started a YouTube under the name Little Red Jam. I also created a Twitch account, but I haven't really done anything with that, but I will probably start trying to stream to that, and then otherwise post recordings of some of the games we're playing on the YouTube account. I made a playlist called Bargain Bin that will have recordings of the games we play. So yeah, if you're more of a visual interactor, then you can watch some of the videos of the games we play each week.
Yeah, that's exciting. I've watched them in my own time, not sitting next to Jamie, because that can make Jamie a little,
it's just like
worried.
Hearing your voice, seeing your face, you just get a little like, I don't want to hear my voice. Don't make me hear that.
Yeah, so in order for Jamie not to give herself the ick, I've watched those on my own time, and they're very well done. Thanks for putting those out, Jam, and I hope you get a lot of subscribers.
Thank you.
Like and subscribe.
Subscribers enjoy. We'll see. I don't know if I'll like keep up with it. I'm enjoying it so far, but my vow to myself is that I'm only going to do it so long as I find joy out of it.
That's a good vow. For me, my binnable moment this week was probably just like, I was feeling a little adrift, as I do. That's kind of a weekly occurrence for yours truly. And yesterday I played some Spelunky 2 with my friend Christian Boxley. Second week, second shout out. And I realized that I really loved it, and I loved spending time with Christian, but like I kind of loved Spelunky, and I've been loving that game. Like, I've been singing his praises, as you've heard on the pod and as Jamie's heard, for a long time. But I started playing Spelunky 1 because Spelunky 2 is the one that has the multiplayer. And I started playing Spelunky 1 just in my own time last night and today. And it's been so fun. I was watching, full runs of the game while I was editing another one of my podcasts today. And then I got to an area I'd never gotten before today while I was playing. So I'm just constantly in awe of Derek Yu as a game developer, and he inspires me, and Spelunky inspires me. So right now it's saving my life.
Aw, we love that. Games save lives.
Exactly.
They can really do a lot for the world and people.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm grateful for that. And next week we don't quite know what we'll be playing, but we'll be back here showing you some indie game gems, and that's what me and Jam like to do. So we're excited.
We're very excited. It's been fun playing games each week, getting to recommend them to y'all or not recommend them.
Yeah.
Most of them have been recommendations, which honestly is kind of a surprise to me.
That's big. There's a lot of good games out there. Please have a lovely holiday. If you were celebrating a holiday that's already happened, hope it was great. If you're celebrating a holiday that is yet to come, hope it is great and that you can find coziness and restfulness and joy.
It's cozy time of year.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Soil Day Radio.
For a community of weirdos built on words. Find out more at soildayradio.com.